In this exercise, we will take our first look at panels, and at two specific panels, the Property Inspector and the Timeline. Panels are used to control the creation and editing of your applications. You can expand and minimize controls by clicking that little triangle icon that's next to any panel's name. Right now we're looking at the Project panel, and you'll notice it's expanded already, so if I click on that little triangle, it will minimize that particular panel. If I click it again, it'll expand it. If I right-click anywhere on the title bar of the panel, I'll get a little menu here which has help that's specific to that panel, very useful. I can also maximize the panel, which will cause all other panels in the area in which it's docked to become minimized. So if I maximize Project, you'll notice that these have all become minimized below, which is convenient if you need to have more space for a particular panel at any given moment. Probably one of the most used panels is over on the left, and that's Tools. And you'll be using these tools to select, create, and modify the content of your document. Now if you look down below, you'll see another area where panels are docked. This particular panel is called Properties. It's also known as the Property Inspector. The Property Inspector is a context-sensitive panel that gives you information and control over whatever is currently selected on the stage. For instance, let's go pick the Text tool. Now watch as I click this. Watch the Properties dialog box, the Property Inspector down below. You'll see it'll change. Because with text, there's certain things you need to be able to tell it. You need to tell it what kind of font you're going to use or what kind of size. And it's specific to that tool. Now let's go and select a different tool. Let's pick the Selection tool. And again, watch the Properties dialog box, the Property Inspector. And you'll see the properties change because this tool requires different properties. You'll also notice on your stage, individual items on the stage can have properties of their own. For instance, we have a button here, so let's click the button. And you'll notice again the properties change because there are properties for this button. It has a name, it has a width and a height, it has a location on the screen. So if we change the width, for instance, watch the button. I'll change it from 100 to 50. It changes. Change it back to what it was. Or I can change its location. It's presently an X of 180. Let's change that to 100. Watch how it'll move to the left. And we'll change it back to where it was. So you get the idea how you can alter items using the Property Inspector. Now let's take a look at another very important panel. It's called the Timeline. It's just above the stage. Flash organizes its animation with a timeline. The timeline controls two things: frames and layers. Think of a Flash file as a film strip or as a collection of film strips that are all layered on top of each other. A film strip is just a series of single frames. These film strips are called layers in Flash. Layers are well named because they layer on top of each other to create the total experience. Each layer has its own row. In the case of this document, you'll notice there's a layer called Actions, Assets, and BG or Background. You can select that entire row just by clicking on the name of the layer. In this case, I click on BG and I've selected that row. Now this particular document is static, but if this were an animation, there would be many, many frames layered across here, or a few, depending on how intricate your animation is. You can always choose an individual frame from this area that's called the playhead. We can do that now. We'll select the first frame in the Assets layer by clicking on that, and you'll notice we've now moved to that particular frame.